modeling for beginners. 3D modeling has become an increasingly popular form of digital art, providing a limitless space for creativity and imagination. This comprehensive guide is tailored toward beginners who seek to learn and master the basics of 3D modeling. Related posts boost your app's success with these top ASO tools and techniques. A comprehensive guide to keyword research for ASO 1. Understanding the basics of 3D modeling. Understanding the basics of 3D modeling is the first step towards unlocking your creativity and bringing your ideas to life. 3D modeling software is used to create three-dimensional objects and scenes, and it's widely used in industries like gaming, animation, architecture, and product design. First, getting familiar with the interface and tools of your software is essential. Each software has its unique interface and tools, but they all share some common features like the viewport, where you view and manipulate your 3D models, and the modeling tools used to create and modify your models. Another critical aspect of understanding the basics of 3D modeling is learning basic modeling techniques. These include techniques such as creating simple shapes, adding modifiers to modify existing shapes, and using Boolean operations to combine or subtract shapes. Understanding the basics of 3D modeling. Source: ASOService.com. As you progress, you'll learn more advanced techniques like extrusion and subdivision, which are used to create more complex shapes, and sculpting techniques for organic shapes like characters and creatures. It's important to remember that 3D modeling is a process of trial and error, and it can take time to become proficient. However, with practice and patience, you'll become more comfortable with the software and techniques and be able to bring your creative visions to life. In conclusion, understanding the basics of 3D modeling is essential for anyone interested in digital art, animation, or product design. Take the time to learn the interface and tools of your software, practice basic modeling techniques, and don't be afraid to experiment and make mistakes. You can buy Microsoft Store app reviews to have more details. 2. Creating your first 3D modeling. Creating your first 3D model is an exciting step in your journey as a 3D artist. It's when you turn your ideas into tangible objects and bring them to life. However, it can also be daunting, especially for beginners who are just starting out. Here are some tips to help you create your first 3D model. Start with a simple object. Don't try to create something too complex for your first project. Start with a simple object, like a cube or a sphere, and work up to more complex shapes as you gain experience. Sketch your ideas. Before you start modeling, it's a good idea to sketch your ideas on paper. This will help you visualize the object you want to create and give you a reference to work from. Use reference images. If you're creating a model of an existing object, find reference images to use as a guide. This will help you get the proportions and details right. Break it down into parts. If your object is complex, try to break it into smaller parts. For example, if you're creating a car, start with the body, then move on to the wheels, doors, and other details. In conclusion, creating your first 3D model is an exciting and challenging experience. Start with a simple object, sketch your ideas, use reference images, break it down into parts, use basic modeling techniques, and most importantly, have fun. With practice and patience, you'll soon be creating more complex and detailed models. 3. 3D techniques for complex shapes. Creating complex shapes in 3D modeling can be challenging, but you can achieve impressive results with the proper techniques and tools. Here are some modeling techniques for complex shapes that will help you take your 3D modeling skills to the next level. Lofting. Lofting is a technique used to create complex curved shapes by connecting two or more shapes. You can use it to create objects like bottles, vases, and even car bodies. To use lofting, create two or more shapes, then use the loft tool to connect them and create a smooth curve between them. Subdivision modeling. Subdivision modeling is a technique used to create complex shapes by dividing a simple shape into smaller parts and refining them. Start with a basic shape like a cube or a sphere, then use the subdivision tool to divide it into smaller parts. Refine the shape by adjusting the edges and vertices until you achieve the desired shape. Create an interactive 3D art gallery from scratch. Source code. 3. JS tutorial for beginners. Source: YouTube. Boolean operations. Boolean operations allow you to combine or subtract shapes to create more complex shapes. For example, you can use the union tool to combine two shapes or the difference tool to subtract one shape from another. This technique is beneficial for creating objects with intricate cutouts or shapes. Extrusion. Extrusion is a fundamental modeling technique that involves creating a shape by pulling a 2D shape along a path. You can use extrusion to create complex shapes by combining multiple extrusions. Sculpting. Sculpting is a technique to create organic shapes like characters or creatures. It involves using a digital sculpting tool to push, pull, and shape a mesh until you achieve the desired shape. This technique requires a lot of practice and skill, but it can produce stunning results. In conclusion, modeling complex shapes requires a combination of techniques and tools. Experiment with lofting, subdivision modeling, Boolean operations, extrusion, and sculpting to create impressive 3D models. Remember to take your time, practice regularly, and don't be afraid to experiment and try new things. 4. Adding detail and texture to your models. Adding detail and texture to your 3D models can take them from basic shapes to realistic, visually appealing objects. Here are some tips to help you add detail and texture to your models. Use bump maps. Bump maps are textures that simulate the appearance of surface detail, such as bumps or ridges, without adding actual geometry to the model. They can be used to create the appearance of rough surfaces, like rocky terrain or a crumpled piece of paper. Add specular maps. Specular maps are textures that control the shininess or reflectivity of a surface. Adding a specular map can make surfaces appear shiny, matte, or somewhere in between. This can be particularly useful for creating metallic or reflective surfaces. Use displacement maps. Displacement maps are textures that add actual geometry to a model, creating the appearance of depth and detail. They can create complex surfaces, like wrinkles on a face or a bumpy road. Use photorealistic textures. You can add them to your models to make them appear more realistic. For example, you can use a texture of real wood to make a wooden table appear more natural. Attention to lighting. Lighting can significantly affect how detailed and textured your models appear. Experiment with different lighting setups to see how they affect the appearance of your model. In conclusion, adding detail and texture to your models can take them from basic shapes to visually stunning works of art. Use bump maps, specular maps, displacement maps, sculpting, and photorealistic textures, and pay attention to lighting to create realistic and visually appealing models. Remember to experiment and buy Android keyword installs, and don't be afraid to try new things. 5. Animating your 3D models. Animating your 3D models can bring them to life and add a new dimension to your work. Here are some tips to help you get started with animating your 3D models. Plan your animation. Before you start animating, it's essential to plan out your animation. Consider the story you want to tell, the characters or objects involved, and the movements they will make. Create a storyboard or animatic to help you visualize your animation. Use keyframes. Keyframes are timeline markers that indicate specific animation moments. You can create smooth and natural movements by setting keyframes for the position, rotation, and scale of your objects. Why is animating for games so damn hard? Source: YouTube. Use curves. Curves help control the motion of your objects between keyframes. You can adjust curves to make animations more fluid and natural. Pay attention to timing. The timing of an animation is crucial to creating a believable and engaging sequence. Consider the speed of movement and how it relates to your story. Experiment with different types of animation. There are many types of animation, including keyframe animation, motion capture, and procedural animation. Experiment with different techniques to find the best work for your project. In conclusion, animating your 3D models can be rewarding and creative. Plan your animation. Use keyframes and curves. Pay attention to timing. Use constraints. Experiment with different types of animation, and use reference footage to create engaging and believable animations. Remember to have fun and experiment, and don't be afraid to try new things. You can also refer by Edge Extension Reviews 6. Showcasing your work and taking it to the next level. Once you have created 3D models and animations, it's essential to showcase your work and take it to the next level. Here are some tips to help you showcase your work and continue improving. Create a portfolio. A portfolio is a collection of your best work. You can use a portfolio to showcase your skills and attract potential clients or employers. Consider creating an online portfolio on platforms like ArtStation or Behance. Use social media. Social media is a powerful tool for sharing your work and reaching a wider audience. Consider sharing your work on platforms like Instagram or Twitter, and use relevant hashtags to increase visibility. Attend industry events. Attending conferences or trade shows can be a great way to network with other professionals and learn about new trends and technologies. Collaborate with others. Collaborating with other artists or animators can help you learn new skills and create more complex projects. Continue learning. Learning new skills and techniques is crucial to improving your work. Consider taking online courses or attending workshops to expand your knowledge. Showcasing your work and taking it to the next level requires effort and dedication. Create a portfolio. Use social media. Attend industry events. Collaborate with others. Continue learning and experiment to improve your skills and create more exciting projects. Remember to stay motivated, have fun, and strive to push your work to the next level. Conclusion. In conclusion, by following the tips and techniques outlined in this comprehensive guide to 3D modeling for beginners, you can unlock your creativity and create amazing 3D models and animations that bring your ideas to life. Related posts https ososervice.com, Google reviews https ososervice.com, iOS Android app reviews ratings. Thanks so much for reading this article. Source: https